So this is another attempt at trying to explain the difference between data and information. And so we're going to start with something simple. And that is actually, I'm going to ask you, what is this? And don't dial it. It's not going anywhere. Oh, I gave it away. It's a phone number, right? Well, we think of it as a phone number, but it turns out that's data. It's not information until we know what we're going to use it for, right? So let's talk about what this thing is that looks like a phone number. First thing I'm going to tell you is phone numbers can be forfeited, sold, stolen. People can change their numbers. That's a whole bunch of stuff can happen. And so this is an example and not a solution. You have to take into account all kinds of other things, like the fact that those numbers can change over time, right? Or they can be scammed, or other things can happen. But it turns out they're pretty darn useful. You know, if you're recording travel, if you're trying to figure out where you are, or I don't know, whatever. The point, well, that's actually a device, so that's not quite the same thing, but it's on the cell network. So phone numbers could be cellular, they could be something else, but the question is, how are they, what's the difference between, like, why are they more than just those digits? And I'm going to say that they could be a couple different things. They could be contact information, right? So a phone number is a location on the phone network, but we can use it for problem notifications. You know, your kid is sick. You get a text message. The phone number, that text device becomes an emergency contact, right? You can get status updates. I had one the other day. We needed to unlock our credit, and it called back with a code to a phone number, and it didn't matter whether it was a mobile or not. It made it so that I could get a status code to do an unlock. That was kind of a 2FA thing, so that's more credentials. But the point is, you can do status updates. Hey, your credit has changed. This has changed. That's changed. Your car was left unlocked. I had that one the other day. And you have an event coming up, right? It's part of your calendar system. So, and that's in a text message, but it could also be in a phone call, right? So the phone number there is contact information, and it can be used as part of some business process or some personal process. That's like not even talking about getting a phone call to do human-to-human conversation, right? So that's contact, target, notifications, all those kinds of things. If you work in a company that needs to notify people of things, that's the contact part of what a phone number is good for. Another thing it can be used for is part of identity resolution, right? You can use it for fraud. Has this phone number been used in other fraud situations? If I'm trying to figure out if this person in the real world if these two people in my world, in my corporate world, in the government world, are the same as this person in the real world, the phone number is not foolproof, of course, like anything else. But the point is, you can take that phone number and some other information and get some confidence that you have some idea who that is, whether it's who that person is in your world having come back, right? Because you could have, they could have gotten something on their phone that they use, or fraud. And another one would be like, hey, location. Where are you standing right now? Oh, we're going to turn on locations. Now, all of this can be spoofed, but the point is, when you see those digits, 7 digits, well, plus 3, that would be 10. It's not just called a phone number. It turns out it's actually information, and I might use it for other purposes. The last one has gotten a little sketchy. It shouldn't be, but it turns out the phone companies didn't used to do a really good job of protecting your credentials, right? So a phone is essentially credentials. It's a target for 2FA. I get a text message, and people say that's not great because it's now they want you to use an authenticator app and other things, but it turns out for a lot of people, baseline credentials, if the phone number is protected and can't be stolen very easily, it turns out a 2FA target or authentication, and the phone with that number turns out to be something that you have. Now, with a smartphone, it's a little different. It can be a network device, but the number itself now, in some situations, right, is used as part of credentials. And it's reasonably reliable, although if you're a high-risk target, then a better 2FA or a authenticator app or something else. But the point is that the phone number itself can have meaning in different contexts. And so that's when a phone number is not just some data we have about somebody. It's information that we use to interact with that person, to know who they are, or for them to try and tell us who they are. So a phone number is data. The processes that use it as information are what is important.